What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to We Lift Big, the fitness, health, and entertainment podcast where listeners like you can be inspired to live a life of health and self-love. I am your host, Bria Gabor, and today I am so excited to share this with you, which is, I feel like I say that every time because I'm always excited. It's always good to see you guys, to share information and all of that good stuff. So anyways, today what I wanted to talk to you guys about is how I time my meals. And so this question is actually something that has come up a lot for me in the recent weeks. And I thought it would be a good thing to talk about because that it's one of the pieces to the puzzle of nutrition. And so it's one thing to eat well and to make good choices and to take the right supplements. And it's a whole nother level to time your food. And to be honest, it is not something that I recommend people focus on right away, especially when you are just getting into the realm of nutrition and you are solidifying your diet and you are making changes. I would say, if anything, timing is one of the things that you would want to look at once your food is dialed in more. And so once you are eating more whole foods and you're making good choices, that's when you can really start to play with food timing. But because it is a question that I have been getting a lot again in these past few weeks, I wanted to share with you all how I have come to time my food. And now I will preface this in saying I am not certified in nutrition. I do have a lot of knowledge and study, although I do prefer to speak from experience. And as a bodybuilding competitor, it is something that I have gotten very good at in terms of structuring my food. And on top of that, I will say I am on a very regimented food plan right now. And so I am working with a coach who is monitoring my numbers and seeing how those numbers fluctuate with my weight and energy and all of that stuff. And so because things are so regimented for me right now, like this is a very structured way. I have a very structured way that I go about my eating. But having said that, I do think that this can serve as a guideline. And so if you have asked me or you are curious just in general of like, what is a good way to structure my food, this I hope can provide a bit of a structure for that. This is what works for me. And if it helps you in any sort of way, then I'm happy I shared. So we're going to dive right into this. So how many meals do I eat in a day? Let's start there. I currently eat 4 to 5 meals a day, and it depends. And so based on how many hours am I working that day, do I have a full day of clients? Do I have like only 2 or 3 appointments and the rest of my day is pretty chill? That will kind of dictate how many meals I have in a day. I find that a day where I'm not as busy, I tend to like to group my meals a bit closer together. And so I'll have 3 or 4 meals. And then if I have a lot going on in a day, then I prefer to have 4 or 5 meals just because I like having that energy on me. And those meals are generally spread out about every 2 to 3 hours. And so, again, kind of pushing 3 hours if I'm going to have less meals in the day. And obviously, if I'm having more meals, I want to keep that consistent. And I will say it's fairly consistent. In the morning, I generally kind of have about 2 hours between meals, only because I tend to be much hungrier in the morning than I am in the evening. And by the time I get to the evening, I'm generally feeling fairly satiated, and so I don't tend to eat as much, and I can space my meals out a bit more because I may not necessarily be as active as I am in the morning. And so with that, I also tend to follow a intermittent, I can't say that word apparently, intermittent fasting schedule. And it varies between 12 hours of eating, 12 hours of not. And in the case that I am in a cut, which I am right now, I may push that to be more of a 10 hours on, 14 hours off. And just to quickly specify intermittent fasting, intermittent fasting is when you have a solid period of time, usually 12 or more hours, in which you are not eating anything. You could be having water, maybe a piece of gum. Well, someone might debate me on that. That's fine. But anyhow, my understanding of an intermittent fast is that at least 12 hours out of the day you are not eating anything. And I tend to prefer to practice evening fasting. And so a lot of people will skip breakfast and have their first meal of the day around 11, 12, 1 o'clock. I actually kind of like to do the opposite, where my last meal will be at like 4 p.m., 5 p.m., maybe 6 p.m. And then even if I'm going to bed at 9 or 10, like I like having that long period of time before bed that I haven't eaten anything. I fall asleep better that way. That's what works for me. And basically to sum all that up, 4 to 5 meals a day, depending on how busy I am that day. The meals are evenly spaced out. And I feel like that's an important thing too, is that it's not like I'm having a meal and then another meal an hour after that, and then I'm waiting 6 hours, and then I'm having another meal and then 3 hours. I like to keep things very regimented and spaced out, and the body tends to prefer that as well. Like it wants to know, you want to teach your body that it is going to have food on a regular basis when you are in your eating period. It puts a little less stress on the body, I would argue. When it comes to timing out my nutrients, I prefer to consume more carbohydrates in the morning and more of my fats at night. And so in the morning, my first 2 to 3 meals will have higher carbohydrates, about moderate proteins, and lower fats. And then as the day goes on, that will kind of flip-flop. And so by the end of the day, I'm having mostly fats and proteins, and I've had pretty much all of my carbohydrates for the day. And the reason I do that is I have found, especially when it comes to my training, I use the carbs in the morning. Like I'm usually doing a morning workout. That's generally when I time my strength training right now, and cardio will at least be in the middle part of the day, generally at the latest. And those are the times that my body really needs the carbs the most, is during the day when I am active, when I am going around, when I'm training, and when I'm running errands and whatever that may be. And then at night, I don't really need those quick sources of energy. And so the fats provide a lot of nourishment. And then when it comes to protein, I space my proteins out very evenly throughout the day. So I'm always having a moderate amount of protein, whether I'm having kind of more of a snack meal or I'm having like a main meal. And this is something I've been doing for a long time, I would say at this point, at least a couple years. And I've found, although there's the research in terms of like, is it bad to eat carbs at night? Like, it's minute. Like, what really makes a difference is if you are over consuming calories, and the time that you over consume calories happens to be at night. That would be something more so to address. Like, if you're having carbs at night, but you're not overfeeding yourself, then those carbs aren't gonna just add on to you as fat. And so if you are like a night snacky person, then having your fats more at night may help as well, just because fats and proteins tend to be more filling than carbohydrates. And the only time I would really shift more of my carbs into the afternoon is if that's when my training is going to be, whether it's cardio or it's strength training. And so jumping a step further, when it comes to meals around my workouts, again, because I'm on such a regimented program right now, this is probably when my food gets the most specific and my macronutrients get the most specific. where I have a very certain way or particular meal even that I eat pre and post workout. And it all comes down to making sure that I have the right nutrients and the right fuel to make sure that I'm building muscle while managing a caloric deficit, just because that's where I'm at in my training. And so when it comes to my strength training, I actually tend to do a little bit better when I'm pretty full. And so I'll try to eat about 45 minutes to an hour before I do my strength training for the day. And when it comes to what I'm eating, there's a really great study. I will link the video that the study is mentioned in down below. It's another Jeff Nippard episode. What is mentioned in the video is that when it comes to fueling your strength training, it is a good idea to have carbohydrates that are both in the form of glucose and fructose. And so the way that you would do that is a slice of toast and like 2 ounces of blueberries or 4 ounces of blueberries. And the amount of carbs that you want to eat before a workout generally varies, although just for myself, I try to have anywhere from 20 to 40 grams of carbs before my workout as well as after my workout. That's what really works well for me. And when it comes to my protein intake, I actually have most of my protein in my day is actually scheduled now around my workouts. And so I'll have anywhere from 30 to 40 grams before my workout and 30 to 40 grams after my workout. And part of that is what was recommended to me from my coach. And I have noticed that it has actually really helped me not endure the workout per se, but I do find that I have more consistent energy and like I have a little bit more in the tank. And so that is something that's been working very well for me. And I leave out fats only because, or I keep the fats low only because, first off, I do like to save my fats for later in the day. But at the same time, since I'm focusing so much on carbs and proteins pre and post workout, I just generally like to keep the fats a little bit lower, and I don't find that it necessarily affects my training. Like I don't necessarily feel sluggish. When it comes to cardio, sometimes I will time some fats in with my cardio meal because you have like the quick carbs that you're going to burn up relatively quickly, and then the fats are going to maintain you a little bit more. When it comes to protein sources, so I know I'm getting pretty specific here, and if I have lost some people, I do apologize. Like you can ask me questions. Like please leave comments, ask me questions down below. If you're like, Bria, I lost you 15 minutes in, it was like, okay, like it's okay, let me explain. I can answer all your questions. And so if all this is be a little bit scattered, please let me know, and you can ask any question and I will have or find an answer for you. But my go-to pre-workout meal right now has generally been yams, or I have a little waffle maker, and so sometimes if I have a little more time on my hands, I will make some like protein waffles and have it with yogurt. And so I generally always have yogurt before my training, either yams or toast or like pre-made like protein waffles I made from Trader Joe's protein pancake mix. And egg whites actually have been feeling really good. I find that because sometimes there'll be those proteins, like I try not to eat too much meat before I work out. Well, it depends on the time that I work out, but I found that something like eggs tends to feel good on my stomach when I'm getting my strength training in. And then post workout, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to have my protein oatmeal. And so I just get a big bowl of oats. Sometimes I'll throw half a banana in there, and then I have my protein powders. So those are just kind of been my go-tos. And again, if anyone wants any more specification or has questions, like hit me up in the comment section on my Instagram, Bria Lifts Big. all of that stuff. You can find me there. Last but not least, I wanted to mention supplements. And so the current supplements that I'm on, I take a probiotic in the morning. I take fish oil, I take creatine, I take vitamin D3, and I have a immunity supplement that I take, and kind of like a multivitamin powder. And so if you've heard of Athletic Greens, not a sponsor, but I mean, Athletic Greens, if you want to hit me up. Anyways, I really like this brand. I had a bad experience in the past taking like pill multivitamins, but that is a whole nother story in of itself. But I just prefer to take my multivitamin in powder form. And so I use Athletic Greens and I use Garden of Life, their raw meal powder, usually in chocolate because it's pretty. Who doesn't like chocolate? And that'll actually be the first thing that I consume in the morning. And so that's one of my meals that it tends to be the same thing every single morning. Is I'll have my multivitamin like powder shake with a slice of Dave's Killer Bread and 2 tablespoons of the probiotic that I use called Coconut Cult. And you only need 2 tablespoons. That's really all you need. Otherwise, your stomach might hate you. But if you take the right dose, it'll love you. And anyways, and so I will mention, sorry, that's another thing, is when it comes to structuring your food, I find it really helpful to have certain meals that are exactly the same. Like, and I know that might be boring, but it works. Like, stick to what works. I have the same meal I eat every single morning, and usually by dinner time, like I have like my post workout is like nine times out of 10 like the same. And then my dinners will usually be some sort of eggs and onions right now. That's kind of what I've been going to. But having those meals that are the same, again, if you're someone who likes structure, like it works. I don't have to think about it. It's good to go, dunzo, all that jazz. And so, sorry, jumping back into focus. So yeah, I take my multivitamin in the morning. I take my probiotic in the morning, generally on as empty of a stomach as I can, although I do have the toast in there just to kind of help soak up some of the probiotics so I'm not just throwing all these vitamins into my system and my stomach's like, whoa, like this is a lot of shit all at once. And just giving it a little bit to kind of soak in. And when it comes to the end of the day, that's generally when I take my vitamin D3, my fish oil, and my immunity. And that's just simply because when I get home, it's one of the first things I grab in the door. And it's like one of the few things I can remember to do on a daily basis. And when it comes to creatine, I take it instantly post-workout. And so as soon as I finish my strength training, I will have a creatine and I will have my post-workout meal immediately. And there's a lot of research about the anabolic window, again, in the video that I will put down below with Jeff Nippard. And again, he explains it actually really, really well. And so, yeah, those are the supplements that I take. And I guess just one more note, I drink a gallon of water a day. I think that water is the best thing ever, but you know what? I'm not going to lie. I do flavor my water. I use little flavor juices. I don't have any around me right now, but I will say like that it does help, especially if you're like, oh my God, I don't like the taste of water. It's not that I don't like the taste of water. It's just I drink so much more water when it tastes like fruit juice or it tastes like candy. I'm just being straight up honest. But that's how I get my gallon in a day. And it does make a huge difference, not just in my appetite, my mood, my skin, and just all of the things. And so with that, I think I covered everything that I wanted to. And again, if this got a little scattered or you have more questions or you want to share your own routine and the way that you do stuff, like please comment down below. I want to hear what you're up to. I want to know how my sharing all of this information has helped you or inspired you or made you confused, whatever. Anyways, I love you guys so much, and thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.